how we going. We'll answer any questions.
Is this available for public viewing?
It's on YouTube. You know more about that?
Yes, and we have a Facebook page as well, and our website, bws.org. So, and if you just type the name of it into Google as well, I'm sure that you get many options. Yeah. So please share the film, and thank you so much to the stream keepers for hosting us.
Yes.
What sort of reception has been given to you by the government of this point?
Well, the NDP, before they were elected, we were able to present to their economic caucus and had a fairly warm response. Since they've been elected, we've been trying to get in to see the ministers and have been shunted around a few times, but it looks like we have an upcoming meeting with both the Minister of Forest and the Minister of Environment. They're non-committal at this time, so we don't know where it's at, but I'm sure it's the public pressure and the letters they're getting that are opening the doors that they can't ignore us.
And they are good people. And they are good people.
We hope so.
Yes, of course.
Brian?
Yeah, Craig, I've heard some things about the federal government enacting some kind of a moratorium or,
Well,
area for the mountain caribou.
They've identified areas, but the biggest thing they do is, well, let's get to the table and talk some more after 25 years of talking. And we're saying, hey, we've had enough studies. Caribou need habitat. Sitting at the table and allowing logging plans to go ahead is just another talk and log process.
Right, so you don't have much hope.
We don't have much hope. They haven't stopped. There's new proposals going ahead as we talk here about logging. Nothing is being stopped. Not commercial, but our rec sites BC are busy signing off recreation areas to the ORV groups all over the province, and a lot of them, like on Silver Cup Ridge, are in prime caribou habitat.
And that is federally designated critical habitat that logging plans are put in place for.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any hope or any way that we can get the Ministry of Forests or the government to add lichen or fungi to the biodiversity category before we consider cutting down a forest? Just consider that as part of biodiversity.
I don't know what it would take. It seems that we have to go through COSEWIC, which is the Federal Committee on Endangered Species. And if that's identified as an endangered species, and if it's considered rare as the Nafroma occultum was, that's what put the brakes on in the Econoplute. We were in there in September of 2002, and they were scheduled to start road building and cutting in 2003. But it was totally finding the Nafroma occultum, getting us a report quickly. That's what suddenly put the brakes on for a temporary moratorium. The result of that moratorium wasn't to protect the whole forest. They still looked at, well, if the lichen's here, how many trees do we have to save around it? And the question of these old growth forests is even putting a road through part of it that may only affect a tenth of it, you're opening up wind channels that dry that forest out. And they aren't looking at the need for whole forest to maintain those species. So they put some of the area into an overall management area. They had their clear cuts they're going for, and Mother Nature said no. They started in a side drainage. They came with an injunction to break down the protest camp. So they were busy packing up, and they turned around behind them, and one of the loggers was driving back out of Boyd Creek and said to them, I guess this forest doesn't want to be logged.
Yeah.
Because a big rock fall came and destroyed $1 million bridge in the canyon at the beginning of the valley. And so that was 2006, 2007. And Pope and Talbot couldn't afford to build the bridge. The Ministry of Forest wouldn't build the bridge. And eventually Pope and Talbot went bankrupt. The company was sold to Interfor. Interfor so far has assessed it, and because their logging was so rapacious in Kamaplu, really what was left, they couldn't see enough profit to go after that wood after building and rebuilding all the roads. So they're kind of holding off. And our big fear with the Liberal government was that they would subsidize them with even lower stumpage rates, rebuild the bridge, or allow them to do a far larger cut than remained so that they could do one final cut and get out. That is still possible under the NDP, but we hope far less likely. We don't think they'd do something like that. Whereas we couldn't trust the Liberal government whatsoever.
What's the state of the bridge right now? Can they get in there?
There's a mining company at Camborne that has a gold mine up on the Teddy Glacier. The mine, I believe, is mainly mining the stock market because they hauled quite a bit of this supposed high-grade ore out of there in 2012, and all that's done is sat at Camborne. They've done a little bit of concentration, but they don't even have a guard on the supposed high-grade gold ore, so I don't know how high-grade it is, but the mining company had built a temporary bridge over top of the old bridge. The Ministry of Forest engineers won't approve it. The logging company won't approve it for any of their staff to drive over. And the ministry insists that the mining company has to erect a lock gate on the road. And so all last summer, the gate has remained locked all summer long. You can get mountain bikes around it or hike around it, but the gate is at 7 kilometers. And the old growth forest starts at 35K. So you've got about 20K of brushed-in logging road to negotiate if you want to get into that logging road.
Do you know where the timber from these trees goes? Who's buying it?
Can't say for sure. The cedar, I don't know who's buying it. The market's supposed to be pretty high for cedar, but I'm not sure whether it's just being produced, to what state it's being produced in BC and how much of it is going out as raw product.
Seems that it would be helpful. It would be helpful, maybe, to go to the buyers, the people who are purchasing this timber for building or whatever down in the States, and let them know what they're really buying.
Yeah, well, this is what we were able to do during the Plate Walk days and raise with the European market. But the BC environmental movement has really fallen apart since then. We've got big interests that are sucking up a lot of the funding, and they're also more interested in negotiating than in doing grassroots protection. So it's very hard to get that kind of nationwide or province-wide lobby against the various companies like we did in the early days with our Brazil of the North campaign and being on the floor in the Belgium Parliament with the Brazil of the North newspapers when Horcourt was about to talk. But that all brought on the core process, the Commission on Resources and Environment way back in, that would have been the mid-90s. And that kind of grassroots stuff is really falling apart and hard to get going again. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for your attention, and write letters, and there's all the information there. Take posters, they're free. They're all our various other campaigns that we've had. They're all dated. So if they can be of any use to anybody, take as many as you want. Yes?
What's your next plan right after the meeting with the government?
Keep up the pressure. Yeah. Well, however and wherever, it will show this wherever, because it generates interest. So wherever somebody wants to sponsor us, we'll come and do the show.
I wanted to mention as well, as you were saying, Gregoire, that protecting these wet areas are so important for biodiversity. And we suspect that the Nkama plume has been growing without burning since the last ice age, so 10,000 years ago. And we're finding with more recent research now that it's not as much high summer temperatures that are a predictor of forest fires, but precipitation. And so these precipitous ecosystems are, a safe haven, and that protect the surrounding landscape from fire as well. So, the heat is on with how horrendous of a fire regime we're seeing right now, and this is all ties into this opening up of this wet ecosystem as well. So that's another important point, for writing your letters and asking for its protection.
I find that's a challenge. We like to protect parks, and we say this lichen and this plant, but they don't protect the whole. Even wetlands are not protected in British Columbia. You can really go on great wetland and fill it up, and there's hardly any protection unless you have a species of fish that are protected, and you can't touch it. It's just a one that you see around the program, and because they can go ahead and show you.
So with more study, if there were, biologist specialists to go in and look for more endangered species, from insects to, amphibians, etc., would that help?
It all helps. It's in one, we would think there's enough information that would suggest more, but again, if there's people that are able to go in and offer their expertise to find other things, it builds the case. And that's what happened when TransAlta, the Territory Power Company, they wanted to go in and dam above Battlebrook, and where they wanted to build their generation plant was right where we had prayer lichens. And this is one of the first instances that we were ahead of the game. We already had 6 inches of studies and documentation, and we were able to just go and present that. And also there had been a broad awareness campaign with people being in there throughout, so various friends of the Nkama plume from all areas in the West Kootenay put out the word, and the letter writing campaign was phenomenal. Within 4 days of TransAlta announcing it, they dropped their plans and rescinded their license, and we got a commitment from the government not to reissue the license to anybody else. So there's no threat anymore of a private power generation plant in the Nkama plume. And that's all from scientific studies, and so more helps. It never hurts to, we've just scratched the surface. And even like Toby feels, just the lichen work, because most of the work we'd get, he'd be working on projects from University of Montana up into Alaska and say, okay, I'm coming through, I got a couple of days. So I'd scramble and clear those days and be able to get in there quickly. So we'd get in there and he'd target key areas he never looked at, but he did a lot of work in Glacier Bay for the Alaska Park Service. And they had, of course, had the funding, so what they did they went in with a lichen team and actually gridded and did a full sample of the area. And I believe the lichens they came up with were numbers in the low 1,300, 1,400. And he felt from what he saw in Glacier Bay that if we could put in a team like that in the Ucamaflu, he could easily show 1,400 lichens. And he felt the same with a multidisciplinary team, that insect specialists, fungi specialists. You know, we had the Seskas, renowned mycologist from in BC. Adolf was the chair of the BC Conservation Data Center, and we had them in there for 4 hours, and in that 4 hours we found a particular mushroom species called the Phaeoclibia. And up to the time of that discovery, and I believe still, it's the only inland find of that mushroom. Previously, it was only known from the wettest areas on our west coast. The Olympic Peninsula, there was a find in Carmana. So this was not only the most interior it's ever been found in North America, it was also the furthest north it had been found in North America. So I don't doubt there are all kinds of anomalies that we find in there.
This is the work that we're actively doing as well. We're a really small team and run fully off of donations, so we do appreciate your support so much. And yeah, I'd like to give a round of applause again to the Slocan River Stream Keepers for hosting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming out, and please finish the goodies. You don't want to take them home.
Thank you.
Thank you.